So Shadiversity wrote a bad book that is filled with his right-wing ideas, including, but not limited to, some sexual assault, I guess. So that's great. Shad wrote a book, nobody likes it, and then he made a video, and he's going to be like, well, actually, people do like it. People do like my book. So let's see what happens. This is like an ad. This is just an ad for his book.
Greetings, I'm Shad, and it's been over 4 years since I released my novel, Shadow of the Conqueror, and since that time, the overall reception to it has been honestly overwhelming. Calculating all the sales of the book across every medium, which is, ebook, paperback, and audiobook, I've sold over 40,000 copies, and keeps on going. Yet since the
40,000 copies of this book. Damn, that's pretty good. Everyone who doesn't like my book is wrong. Could it have anything to do with just what you got going on here? And this is in the middle of, not a release. That was, old Mistborn shit. Right now, he's bestsellers. He's like, look, I'm up here with Brandon Sanderson and J.R.R. Tolkien. You're not, man. This is going to show you your book. Here's your fucking thing. Anyway.
On many things. I don't dive into it heaps
or something. I don't know. Paperback is $15. It is $9 on Kindle. Don't buy it. Anyway, so you're gonna have a situation where people came in and started giving him ratings today. Isn't that fascinating? Love the writing style. Great read. Haven't purchased it. We have a couple verified purchases that purchased it today as a virtue signal. And then they're like, yeah, I've read this. Crazy. So this is what happens. Please pump my numbers up. Chat, pump my numbers up. Please leave a 5-star review immediately.
On Shadiversity specifically. In actual fact, I've made another channel, Night's Watch, to separate any political views I have, also views I have about modern day media, but I am very open about those views on Night's Watch, and you also probably have seen that I am really passionate about AI art as well these days. So much that I even have a new channel called Shad AI, where I am able to separate the video content onto another channel, showing tutorials, addressing the controversies, having debates with people who are very much against it, and all that stuff, and I do like to make community posts just sharing.
Wait, so these look like shit.
New content on Shad AI to help the channel grow, but the content is not on Shadiversity specifically. Yet with me being outspoken about these things, it has...
He fancies himself an artist because he can say, make me a picture of Supergirl. He's like, I spent hours typing about Supergirl. Yeah, he's super pro AI art. Yeah, he's a huge piece of shit. This guy sucks. He's deeply misogynist, super right-wing. Yeah, Shadiversity is trash. Bad guy. Anyway,
What is wrong with salami?
So we should all go on his channel and say, I prefer Scalagrim. You shouldn't go to his channel.
It's upset a lot of people who disagree with me, which I find very unfortunate because I genuinely believe that people are capable of getting along even when they disagree strongly about many things.
You need that clip of the live stream where his brother awkwardly has to try not to say he sucks at art?
Especially ideology and politics, and that's even more important, to learn to get along with people we disagree with, because people like me, I have very firm views. I'm not going to be changing unless you give me really good argument and evidence.
That's not true. He doesn't take any of that. He's deeply insecure about these topics.
So instead of cutting ties completely and just disassociating...
His brother is a professional artist with the channel Jazzadraws. Highly suspect he is jealous. Oh, yeah. This has been an ongoing thing for Shadiversity, is that his brother, an artist who has the skill, has tried to tell him in the past that his art isn't good and the AI art isn't doing art, and he can't take it.
Wouldn't it be much better to just learn to get along? What does this have to do in relation to my novel? Well, because there are a lot more people who dislike me for me being outspoken on many things, there is, of course, far more criticism.
This isn't why people dislike him. It's not about him being outspoken. It's about the take. It's not that you're outspoken. It's how you're outspoken. You're just wrong.
And attacks against me. And one of the unfortunate kind of points of attack people have recently been trying to take a shot at me is in my novel Shadow of the Conqueror, but instead of focusing on the negative and giving people who don't like me the attention that they seem to be after, I want to focus instead on the positive and also share with you what the actual overall view and opinion of my novel from general readers.
From general readers. General readers, not at all people that like Shadiversity. What? They're already here. I love that he says he's a top seller. It's the 2000th best-selling book. It's number 54,000 overall in books. Wow, a top seller. He's doing great. Good job, dude. Great job. Excellent work. Emotionally moving, logically grounded. So, anyone who's actually read the book? Let's see. Let's start with the 1 stars. A truly awful book. As someone who has never heard of the author before, no his YouTube channel, I must add a voice to the minority chorus to say that this book is atrocious, and I would advise against anyone ever reading it. The fact that so many reviews here and elsewhere begin with something to the effect of, I like his YouTube channel, and proceed to somehow defend this affront to good writing makes me question the value of reading online reviews. Yes, that includes this one you see right now, dear reader. Always be critical. Note that this review will be indiscriminately contain spoilers, but I can assure you there is nothing in this book that is worth a spoiler warning. The number of ways that people misses that this misses the mark is greater than I have patience to transcribe, but I feel I owe it to explicate a few of them, if for no other reason than to get them off my chest. First, the writing itself displays a consistent lack of ability on the author. I get that this is self-published and that this is his first, but that is no excuse for releasing a book where the quality of sentences I expect from middle school fan fiction. The setting of the book is supposed to be high fantasy, large world type of deal, but the characters constantly break into dialogue that doesn't remotely fit in. They randomly say crap or in places that seem as if the author didn't bother to read any of this aloud to himself. To see if humans talk like this? Second, in many cases, the most personally infuriating thing, the main character is essentially Superman with the skills of Batman and the speed of the Flash and the brains of Tony Stark, and really, I struggle to think of more of a Mary Sue than the worthless protagonist. His entire storyline is Guy feels bad about being the ultimate pedophilic, genocidal Emperor Palpatine when younger, and somehow his punishment is to become young, sexy, and get every possible superpower. Seriously, near the end of the book, when he finally faces someone that seems to have even the slightest shred of a chance to even hurt him, he just realizes, oh wait, I can make myself a better swordsman with my powers, so now I'm like 20 times better at fighting. The same thing happens over and over for 500 pages. The main conflict is resolved by him just making himself smarter via his magical God-given superpowers so he can come up with a plan. I wish this was hyperbole. This is by far the laziest, most poorly thought out idea for a power I've ever read. We can keep going, but we don't have to. We don't have to. Maybe we'll add. Maybe we'll go to other pages or other parts of that review as we go on.
You know, people who either don't have an issue with me or are able to be objective about reviewing, media that comes out. This isn't to say my novel is for everyone. Of course not. There are things that are going to be just far too unpalatable for a lot of readers. I did that on purpose. The story of my novel is about a tyrant. One of the worst people who has ever lived. He is equivalent to like the Stalin or Hitler of his world. So he's done...
Yeah. Sounds like a great fucking book.
Done some awful, terrible things, but the premise of the book is, could someone like that possibly be redeemed?
And Shad's answer is, yes, Hitler can be redeemed. Sounds like a great book, huh?
And it follows his journey as he comes to a realization of how evil he really was. The novel deals with some really dark subject matter, including rape, abuse, genocide. I mean, this is a tyrant, and...
Excellent.
I did look to historical examples of the type of character that I was constructing, and one of the...
Finally, a story that humanizes the villain. See, here's the thing. Your villains can be humanized and not detestable. Your villains need to have clear, concise motivations to do things that make sense to them. That's what makes a good villain. I mean, and others, they have to have interesting dialogue and, compelling reasons for the characters that you're writing about to be, there has to be quality tension throughout this, but man, it's a no for me, dog. Why do you want to write about rape and genocide? Like, you think it's cool? Yeah, he definitely thinks it's cool.
the interesting things you do need to confront with a story like this is how do they approach relationships? And when looking at, like, you know, how Genghis Khan kind of approached relationships and his treatment of women, there's some
God damn it, screw bucket.
troubling things that historical figures like that have done. And one of the goals of my novel was to not pull any punches, okay? If it gets uncomfortable, well, it's funny. All the terrible things that my character, Dalen, has done in the past, because this is all actually in the background of the novel, is not equivalent to what real-world figures individually have done. He has done awful things in lesser extents, in that you can draw parallels from multiple historical figures, including tyrants of the past.
It's crazy. It's crazy that his story, the one he had in his head, that he's like, I just have to tell this story. I want to tell this story. His thing to say is that tyrants are redeemable. How is that going to resonate with people? How are people going to be like, yeah, okay, yeah, of course. Tyrants are redeemable. He is a fan of the Empire. He must be. How do you watch the Star Wars movies and root for Luke Skywalker? Isn't his protagonist a rapist? Yes.
And then I kind of took them all and put them into one.
What is wrong with salami?
Fun fact, never write rape into your book unless it's absolutely necessary for the story. Fun fact, too, 99.999% of the time, rape is not necessary for the story, and you can most likely convey the evilness without crossing that line through other means in a far more effective manner. I agree. The only time that it would involve the story is if it's like a true crime thing, and I would hope it's not like detailed. Like, I don't know. I could see how it could come up in a past tense sort of thing. Not in a fiction book. It just isn't compelling in a fiction book. It's just crazy, man. Like, you can't redeem yourself.
A confronting character. And so my goal...
He wrote multiple instances of rape into his book. Totally different. True.
Was to try and see if people would be willing to go along the journey with this character. And pushing it far, I was kind of happy for, like, all right, if I make maybe 80% of people can go along with this, difficulties, the challenges of this character, and there's probably 20% that's going to be way too much and unpalatable. The overall consensus, which I want to share some things with you, like what the consensus is of the book.
Decarnation came out this year, a literal game about a woman being kidnapped by someone obsessed with her looks, and it doesn't have rape once in it. It's wild how motherfuckers think it's necessary. I never heard of it, but yeah, I mean, you just don't need to involve sexual assault in your shit. I can't imagine how it would make the story better. Like, man, maybe if the author is trying to work out their own trauma through the purpose of writing the story, and depending on how they go about it, but like, this isn't what he's doing. He's just using it as a prop to show, like, that guy's bad and evil. And it's like, what's the fucking point?
Is actually a lot more people seem to be willing and on board with the journey of this character.
No, goof off, and I
So
that.
looking at the audiobook adaptation of Shadow the Conqueror, which was narrated by Michael Kramer and Kate Redding, and they did a phenomenal job. Michael Kramer and Kate Redding, they did the audio narration for Wheel of Time, the book series. Also Brandon Sanderson's Mistborn, Stormlight Archives. So absolutely amazing narrators. And genuinely, I think the audiobook is one of the most enjoyable ways to consume Shadow of the Conqueror. So out of nearly 6,000 ratings, so we're looking at 5,978, the overall consensus is 4.6 out of 5 stars.
Okay. So, out of your 1.67 million subscribers, you got 6,000 people to buy the book and say, I like his YouTube channel, 5 stars. It's just crazy. Like, the type of ego storm that this guy has going on in his head, he's like, no, I'm actually good at art. I'm good at art, guys. I'm a writer and an artist. Like, just fucking let ChatGPT do it next time.
Which is, like, that humbles me, and it's just absolutely amazing. It's more kind of...
I don't think this is good.
It's a more positive reception of my book than I ever dreamed. Remember, I was thinking...
So desperate to have his name anywhere near Brandon Sanderson. He keeps doing it.
Maybe like 80% of people would understand there's going to be a 20%. It looks like a lot more people have really, really enjoyed the novel Shadow of the Conqueror. If we sort the reviews just by most recent...
Have been a fan of his Shad and his YouTube channel for a while. Wow.
And so this is not filtering by the most positive reviews. These are the reviews of what the most recent people who have read the book, and it is like it's hard to kind of put into words because you kind of dream that a book would be received with this level of positivity.
Oh my god, he is so fucking delusional. Why do weird guys laugh so much like they only had laughing described to them? I'm glad he likes. I'm glad that his right wing audience likes his right wing book. I'm sure none of them have read the whole fucking thing. What are the reviews on the second book?
And
what's your recidivism
it's out of
rate?
your hands, though. When you release it into the world, people will, not pull back any punches. And the critics of the novel is not everyone loves it. They don't pull any punches, and then the people who particularly
don't pull any punches. I think it's time to go back into a negative review just for a second. Second, and in many cases, third. There's basically no story. Once the protagonist becomes his sexy, overpowered young version of himself, the rest of the book is just him messing around and killing bad people, with the final climax seeming like it could have happened at any time. At no point did it feel like it was building towards anything. At one moment, you just realize that something is going to happen, and that'll probably be the end. Maybe? Hopefully? Fourth, the character of Lyra, or whatever, is one of the most unbelievable characters I've seen in a long time. You're telling me that this random girl gets R-worded repeatedly by a tyrant. Wow, what? Decides to join the League of Angel Superheroes, trains for years and becomes very powerful and respected, and yet somehow doesn't know the slightest bit about how to not immediately offend her own professional partner? Everything she does, she's acting like an idiot with no self-control. It felt like reading a character who is supposed to be a follower of the Dalai Lama constantly trash talk anyone they don't understand and get mad as soon as someone makes a joke at the color of their habit. So he made a woman character that was just... wow. Okay, fifth, this is the last one I'll read for a minute. And something plenty of other reviews have pointed out is the overwhelming misogyny. The fact that the first female character we see is immediately described as having melon-sized breasts, quote, should tell you all you need to know. But I can say it continuously goes like that for the rest of the book. The disturbing thing here is not that a character is sexist or that the world's supposed to be. No, it just sounds like the author is, and he's showing in his writing. Wowzers. Doc with 50 biddies. I mean, this was obviously self-published. Oh yeah. No one would publish this for him.
Dislike me,
Kind
and
of
I'm actually saying flat out dishonest things. I don't listen to all of them because you never want to dwell on the negativity, but you do want to actually be open to...
I can just imagine now, hey Shad, why did you describe the breasts as melon-sized? And he's like, well, I have to describe her, don't I, in the book, so you can see her? And it's like, yeah, why did you describe her breasts as melon-sized? He's like, because in my head, they're melon-sized. How else am I going to describe her? Why are you describing her tits? What do you mean? That's part of her description. He'll just never understand what you're saying to him.
Legitimate criticism, and so on the occasional thing I will listen to a negative review here and there.
He said he wasn't going to show the negative reviews, so.
Some actually I can understand where they're coming from. It's like, all right, you're being fair, thank you for being fair, but then there are other ones that just flat out misrepresent the book completely and lie about it, and that does put me in an interesting position as an author, because to what level...
As an author. He loves to say as an author. He loves to say as an artist.
I hope you have a
Reno, Redhead, 38 months. Beautiful. And if you don't have a subscription, you have 2 minutes before ads. But chat, we now have a chance. We can just interrupt Shad for a little bit if you want.
Should an author defend his work when there are objective lies being spread about the book that you could literally just read sections of the book which contradict what people are saying? So... that's just an unfortunate thing, but okay. It's much better to dwell on the positive, but this isn't me actually filtering for the positive. This is just most recent reviews, and still, the reception is just really, really encouraging, and I thank everyone who has given my novel...
The spear is e-begging. Is he LARPing? What do you mean he's LARPing? No, that is he has a hoodie with real chainmail on it, and a little vest. This is what he wears to protect himself from the assailants that he faces in the battlefield.
A try. And so as we see some of the reviews here on Audible, full 5-star across the board, couldn't put it down. We have again, full 5 stars, A Book of Redemption. I must say this book has been a fantastic
Oh,
ride.
that's real chainmail. Look at it. It's a real chainmail hoodie. Ching, ching, ching. You're hearing it going with the metal. You can hear it.
From the
Fun fact, it's not LARPing if you think it's real.
start
It protects
to the
his
end. One of the
virginity?
best
That's right.
reads. You love and hate the main character, and it is so well written. And I'm like, yes, that's like, this is a difficult concept and story to try and manage. And yeah, the character, there is so much to loathe about this character. But when I hear feedback like that, I'm like, that's what I was going for.
That's what I was going for. I wanted you to not know if you were going to like my book by the end of it. He's pleased as a pig in shit.
Full 5 stars again, fun, imaginative, and original. If you're looking for a good book to dive into, this is it. Wish it was a series. Now, just on that note, it's a standalone with sequel potential. At the moment, I'm
A
quite
standalone with sequel potential?
happy to let Shadow the Conqueror kind of rest for a bit and be a standalone novel, although there are sequels that
I wanted you to hate my Hitler character. Oh, you don't need to do this, man.
do want to write for it eventually. Not full 5 stars, but this reviewer says potential for a first book. I believe it is good. It has enough details to interest and intrigue, but with the freedom to enjoy.
Are these AI? Are these bots? Trevor, Kyler, Matthew.
One, someone says, my favorite. I have listened to this like 5 times now. Awesome story that is meaningful.
Not a verified purchaser. None of these people have verified purchases on here. How did they? So you're telling me they bought it on Amazon and their Amazon account doesn't show that they bought it? Fucking fascinating.
The perfect mix of fantasy and sci-fi. This was
From Dusk Knight.
one of the other things I really enjoyed writing the novel is I wanted to approach the fantastical element, the magic.
FakeSpot found about 77% of the reviews suspicious and put the actual score closer to 3.5. Wow. I'm sure it's much lower than that.
Like hard science fiction, and that's why one of the descriptive, genre types you could apply to Shadow of the Conqueror is hard fantasy, where hard science fiction is science fiction where the science really matters. Hard fantasy is like that, where the magic is explained in almost a scientific way. Great book, if a tad predictable. Next review is great story. I've enjoyed Shadow of the Conqueror very much and would love to hear more stories from this fascinating and magical world. And
Sorry, 77 reviews reliable. Only 77 of these reviews are reliable?
now here we have a mid review, a mid book by A Dork Afraid of Female Empowerment. Now,
Let's go.
this one is interesting because clearly I'm not. There's a lot of female characters that are, Alita Battle Angel, of course, is one of my favorite, honestly. And so it's not female empowerment. This is the type of story that I was going for. Another
Oh, wow. He just goes right past it.
and so it's not female empowerment. This is the type of story that I was going for.
Yeah, not female empowerment. The story is all right. Not much new, but that could be okay. The issues are more core with the author, Shad. His love for tropes like big, strong man saves helpless woman come through a lot, and it gets annoying. The main character is a prick you don't really end up rooting for, and the female lead is basic, tropey, and not well written. There's some cool magic and world building, but the characters feel lacking and forgettable. Where the problems start? He's Mormon. Most Mormons are conservative leaning, and while that's not inherently an issue, it seems Shad falls into the fearful conservative category who views feminism as a threat to his existence. That's an issue. Shad is clearly a want-to-be Brandon Banderson, but most of us who aspire to write fantasy are, to be honest. The sad part is where Brando has embraced the LGBT community and inversions of tropes such as weak women need to be saved. Shad gets upset when women wear pants. I wish I were joking or exaggerating, but I am not. They are both middle-aged Mormon men. Brandon has clearly thought through the dynamics of the real world we live in, and Shad is living in fantasy. The potential for a good story is there, but Shad clearly needs to grow up and pull his head out of Joseph Smith's ass before
I suffer from whiteness.
before he can write quality literature. Doc! He wants to be like Terry Pratchett, Michael Crichton, and Tolkien. Oh no! You have a little momentum, chat.
Another full 5-star review, feeling sorry for a tyrant. Bold choice to make the main character, Dalen, a monster similar to Mao, Stalin, and Hitler, and managing to make me empathize, root for, and feel sorry for Dalen. This story is great.
Wow.
The diversity
Sanderson is a Mormon. He works at BYU.
of these humans are written in a way that makes biological and geographical sense. Well, thank you.
It makes biological and geographical sense. Wow, what a book!
And they honestly keep going. If you look at the reviews, sort by most recent, you will get a very clear idea of what most people kind of feel about the book. And I think
He sure does like to go past some of the mid-reviews, huh? Rape should never be used as a plot device. Shad, as an amateur writer, really shouldn't have touched such a sensitive top subject as rape in the first published work, especially when it's used like a toddler wielding a sledgehammer. So cringe.
I think
My
it's one of
corn
those
is so moist that it's actually dripping.
Mo, what now, Mo?
things where
A love letter to Sanderson.
I'm, quite. Oh, of course, any author would be happy with these types of reviews and feedback. Now, I like the book. I wrote it to.
You can tell the author really believes he's clever. This book is entirely forgettable and uninteresting. The one or two interesting points are lost by a bloated runtime in a simplistic message.
My
Dark Stormlight. He uses fabrials, knights, hard magic, and skyships. Wow. You can use some tropes in world building. The fabrials. He uses fucking fabrials? That's crazy, dude.
It's
so weird how many dudes want to rip off Sanderson. Kind of love letter that ends quickly with a restraining order. Ooh, nice.
my preferences and interests, and so is it to me to say it's good? I know I enjoy it. I wrote it for that purpose. But I think it would be fair to say that the book is very well received.
Very interesting. This book is very interesting and enjoyable. It has a great story and good characters, and I deeply enjoyed it. Real. A very good book. Its clever writing and storytelling blew me away. I love how the world feels real, even though it's so different from reality. A masterful book. Real. These are real, real reviews of people who read the book.
By most people that...
Great story. Ready for number 2. Hope it is out soon. Thoughtful review.
read it. As we can see,
I am not a robot. This is one of the best books I'll read all year. To be someone's first published book is amazing. I have few changes I'd make to the end of the book for sure. Way to go, Shad.
I'm not...
Anger management and sex the book. Explaining things in the middle of action slows everything down. Planting is done so much. It sounds like the labor is done in acres of farm, and I feel like I just wanted to skip the mandatory time for school. What? Writers know what I'm talking about. And the most important thing, the character's so unlikable, so unrelatable, and we can't love Eric because he has a dark past and speaks like a pompous rich person. So who can accompany us to learn about this world? Just the wretched fools everybody dislikes, but we have to deal with them because the author says so. Sex is everywhere in the book. The idea that sex should be shared with everyone, like the foreign people, think it's already a sign of bad mental health altogether. What? No self-respect, and it's cultural, so it's fine mentality. But then they say sex is a bad thing because the main character is a rapist. So consensual sex is fine, right? All these ideas ruin the experience of the book, and the fact that the main character also has Superman-like powers and the kryptonite is their only weakness, but as an author to overcome this gave the character a grand master skill. So 2 different kind of Supermans in one. I don't see any character development for a second book. I didn't like how things went in the book, and I won't get to know anything else about the world and its leftover villain, the Shade. Get this book if you like to read about failed adults, adultery, sex, rape, and slaves. I wanted to forget about the world and have a great adventure, forget about stress and have a good time. But with this book, I just got reminded how twisted and revolting humanity can be. I'm done.
Not filtering.
A narrator couldn't save it. Michael Kramer. Kate is one of my favorite narrators. She couldn't save this book for me. I could not get past the arc of the book. I wanted to like the main character, but could never get there. Returned the book.
Away negative.
Returned the book. What a trash book. Very uncomfortable. Every woman in the book is either sexualized instantly or a victim of sexual violence. Shad seems to really like including rape in his book for little to no reason. It's also the laziest attack on left-wing politics I've ever seen. It's not the rich people's fault. The poor people vote for them. The main antagonists are not the creatures born of dark magic that will eat your soul. It's the socialists. As if Shad thinks he put things in his book, that's how real life works. How to know you aren't ready for to be a public artist? You only look at the good reviews and can't learn from criticism. Well, fuck.
Negative reviews.
I like lore.
But overall, hugely positive. The same when we go to just the Amazon review page. If we sort by most recent, we have the most recent reviews, 5 stars. They say, great book. This one actually is a really interesting review. Utterly unique, a mind-blowing different story of a main
Very
character.
nice.
And they say, I can't believe I'm rooting for this guy, but I am.
Julie rooting for the rapist.
I refuse to say more than that. You wouldn't believe me anyway. You would think I was nuts. You would say that this can't be the protagonist. He sounds awful. Well, yes, he is, and he admits it. That's the incredible part, they say. Shad has managed to create a person and a world that is as deep as it is fun. For those wondering, yes, it's clearly part of a series, but this first book is a complete story with a satisfying...
It's clearly part of a series that he said, I'm not even sure is a series. The people reading this literally don't even know what's going on in it. A big fat steaming pile of fart-smelling shit. Yep.
Ending. I really look forward to the next one.
Just some fun,
and that is what I was going for. I was trying to make a complete story that could stand on its own merit with sequel potential.
So we're watching him for 20 minutes talk about how his book is actually good?
And I do intend to write the sequels, just not for a bit. Like I said, I'm letting it rest and I'm working on another novel in the meantime.
Great.
A heroic effort and, again...
A great read from a first-time author, 3 stars. Great
These
read.
are just the most recent reviews, and you can kind of see...
I couldn't make it past the sample. This reads like poor fanfiction. I love your channel, Shad, but what on earth? Literally a fan of his.
That this is what most people are...
Hated the book, both as a story and as a physical object. Shad decided to write a story about the most unlikable human being he could conceive of in the hopes he could write a compelling redemption story for them. He only succeeded on the first count. The ignorant confidence one needs to call this the beginning of a grander narrative is just as aspirational as it is foolhardy. As for the physical disgrace of an object containing said story, it is at great conflict with itself. The cover has flatly refused to contain the pages afforded to it, which I can sympathize with greatly. Even the pages themselves have begun to feud against themselves. I fear that any attempt to read this particular copy will see itself dissipate into nothingness. Perhaps that is for the best. And then included is a picture of the book falling apart.
Feeling about the book.
Needs some work. Far too much exposition and explanation. The main character is way too overpowered, and for in-world reasons, I don't believe that's really important. He's really repentant. Most of the other characters needs work as well, and their dialogue really needs to be pared back.
And so I think I have a certain, at least a little bit of right to say that.
I wanted to like it. I wanted to like this book. I really tried. I like Shad's YouTube channel. All of these are like that. Whole family enjoyed the book. Yeah, okay. His personality is there, but it does not translate to good writing. I blasted through it in about a day and was left with a lot of frustration and irritation with the character and the writer. The plot could have been good in the hands of someone willing to write a much darker story, but Shad tries too hard to make a dark character that you're supposed to believe is a dark character simply because he says so, and occasionally does something super violent while also slapping you repeated with crass, out-of-place dad humor. Instead of allowing the story to progress at a natural pace, the reader is subjected to many info dumps, which slow the story down. I have way more problems with it, but I know it sounds like I'm just being mean. I hope he continues to read and learns to better serve his own story.
It's a good book. And if you like this type of, fantasy, epic fantasy...
Oh, I gotta read that one. I gotta read all the bad reviews, Shad. This is hilarious. Very graphic, mocks trauma victims. Incredibly disappointing storyline, nice world building, but horrible characters. Major male power fantasy with zero understanding of trauma or civic retribution. Everyone who read this book...
It was never meant for the world of the living.
Honestly, pretty terrible. Info dumping, unlikable, unsympathetic main character, pacing,
well,
grammar and punctuation's bad, repetition.
There's a good chance that you will really enjoy the novel as well. I'll end off with this review here. They say, impressive book I found difficult to put down. I'll admit I bought this book because of my love for Shad's YouTube channel. I wasn't expecting much, especially given it was his first novel. I was pleasantly surprised to find this to be one of the most engrossing novels I've read in a while.
Wow, he's going to finish on this one? It's the vibes of the D&D story of a paladin murdering a bunch of people, then being pissed they lose their oath because they don't understand that murder is wrong.
Not since Project Hail Mary have I read a book that I simply couldn't put down.
Wow.
Thank you, Anthony. I really appreciate it. That means a lot. And the Amazon review...
Dude, this guy needs... He needs his fan base to tell him he's a good boy. Please tell me I'm a good boy. Chat, will you tell me I'm a good boy? Chat, tell me I'm a good boy and subscribe immediately. That's the only way. And give me 5 stars. Thumbs up me. Please.
Are sitting on 4.6 out of 5 stars. That is with 2,400 ratings.
This is such fucking weird cope.
So, looking at the overall consensus, after 4 years since, publishing my novel, it's really positive. And thank you. That's all I can say. Thank you for everyone who has read my novel.
McPlatypus! Giving one to Bad Jake! What the fuck? Well, thank you for the... I appreciate it. 4 years and only 70 real reviews. Yep.
And even people who didn't like it, I appreciate you giving the time to take a look at it. So
it's free. They're giving it away for free, the audiobook.
You as a potential reader, or for people who have read the novel, it is interesting to try and determine if, you'll like a book before having read it. And one of the ways that people do is to look for reviews. I'm a reviewer. I review lots of media on Night's Watch. I wouldn't say rely on my review alone, or any one single person's review. You'd want to see what a collection of reviewers think about it.
Yeah, it's shit.
And one of the best ways that you can go to have a look at what the majority kind of view of my novel and a lot of novels are, you can go to the Amazon page, the Audible page, look at reviews, sort by most recent, and see what the most recent people reading the book think about it. Of course, that isn't a surefire way. Like we have seen kind of review bombing is an interesting thing.
Review bombing, the literal opposite of this is happening. He has not been review bombed. He has been love bombed. By his fans. What? A bunch of his fans gave him 5 stars and didn't even read the fucking thing.
It hasn't happened to me yet. Neither positive nor negative, but it can happen on both ends.
Incredible.
But it's usually an interesting phenomenon. But at the moment, I think sorting by most recent is a very fair way to go about it. The novel is still available on Amazon and Audible.
Cool. He's just doing an ad for his fucking book the whole time. Man, okay.
And also, I have produced a graphic novel adaptation, which is going to be now in 3 parts. And the first part already had a launch on Indiegogo, and we are in the final
Is he going to use AI to do the whole illustration?
stages of the fulfillment.
I bet he is.
Like the final stages because everything's been printed. They printed like the book and novels, because there was a second edition version of the novel exclusively available through the Indiegogo. Hopefully, I'll make it more generally available.
Literally is doing this all through Indiegogo.
Later on, as well as the graphic novel, and it's got like a new the graphic novel has new covers, but the second edition has new covers for the novel as well. But those are so close to going out, you have no idea. So that's really exciting.
Okay, so he's just talking about the book distribution. I don't give a fuck about it because no one's gonna buy it. So that's Shad being upset about the reviews for his book. I guess let's finish this one. 6, and more damning from a literary perspective, is that there are regular attempts at making various political or philosophical points throughout the book, but is so ham-fisted that none of it goes anywhere. In many ways, it betrays the author's lack of expertise on any of the subjects, e.g. systems of government. If you're going to make a communism bad argument, you have to give it more than a cursory glance. Similarly, every so often, something that might have interesting consequences comes up, like the issue of free will versus the light's will, but it's then immediately forgotten. So many missed opportunities. 7th, and I'm as shocked as you that we've even gotten to 7 without getting sick of writing this. One of the few things I've heard about the author before starting this was that he was an aficionado of swords and medieval warfare. From what I was guessing is that there would be a cool fight scene littered with technical terms and flashy techniques. I was sorely disappointed. All the fights were as bland as the rest of the book, with no excitement, no over-the-top effects, and scarcely any feeling that you were even seeing something entertaining. If you know something, show it. Now, the above should give the barest taste of how poor the novel is, but I'll at least close with some upshots. he's like, hey, maybe he won't be bad in the future. If you've ever suffered abuse, avoid this book. Aimless plot and abysmal prose, do not recommend. Never combine peerless knowledge of fantasy tropes and poor knowledge of character writing. No justification. Weak writing. Couldn't make it past the sample. The Return of the Jedi of fantasy novels. Very graphic. Mocks trauma. Another forgettable piece of fantasy. Amazing. Write what you know, not what you don't. Well, what he knows is how to dismiss sexual assault, so he wrote it. Easy. Easy one for your boy Shad. So I won't be purchasing the book. Surprise.